So, welcome to what I am now calling Building a Better Human. And our special guest today is Lawrence Winterman. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anybody who's not tuned into this series before may not have been aware it was a series because we just came up with the official title. Is we ask anybody who comes on about what they're doing for their main project or projects, is how it's bettering them and how it's helping to better other people. And then if we have time, we always try to squeeze in that what's one daily practice you do to work on one of the four things: mind, body, heart, and soul. So I am your host, Jacob Summers. Y'all know me. Lawrence, introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jacob. So I'm Lawrence Winterman. I am a part of Gen XE. I started Gen XE, the Substack, with my best friend Danny Dubois. Only back in March. It's only been since then, and we've been kind of learning Substack and growing and doing all kinds of fun, wacky stuff with through Gen XE for the last 6 9 months, however long it's been. And aside from that, I have been in my career a bunch of different things: project and program management in tech companies, a hypnotherapist. I studied acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine for a while. And I've got kind of a different sort of my own version of a spiritual practice that certainly we can talk about today. But yeah, I'm excited to be here, Jacob, and to kind of talk about your whole mind, body, heart, and soul
Yeah,
thing. So thanks for having
absolutely.
me.
And for anybody who is listening to this later on the podcast, the audio only version, Lawrence has a magnificent beard. And yeah, I'm very jealous of it. Not because mine's shorter right now. That was intentional grooming once a year to let the skin breathe. But I've had mine as long as his, but I've never had mine as beautifully white and gray as his. And I mean that sincerely. The
Oh,
moment it
thank you.
gets I've got the Racial Ghul white patch coming through, but not like yours, and I look forward to it being that way. Zero sarcasm. So
Yeah. Well, I'm doing this really interesting thing right now where I have acquired this special shampoo that is supposed to reawaken the melanocytes in your hair follicles so that gray hair starts to recolor, and it's working in my mustache. My mustache is turning like blondie red back to, so it's kind of crazy. I hear
well,
your appreciation for the grays, and also job hunting while gray is a really weird place to be in, and so I'm actually I don't know. I'm trying this experiment where I'm trying to ungray, not through dyes, but through this natural process that's supposed to, uh, bring the color back into your hairs.
well, I will take your, ungraying your hairs, and I would love to have something that regrays them, that's or grays them up. But it's what I need to work on is this little what my one of my brothers calls the monk cap back here. I've got a
Oh
nice
yeah,
full head of hair, except for a slightly thinning spot back here that I barely ever notice because I can't see it.
right.
But it's funny that you mentioned for job stuff, because I'm in the process of transitioning my gym to online only, and I bartend part time right now. But as I continue to hunt around for what I want to do with this next stage of my life for a full time job, um, I that's actually part of the reason that I shaved mine all the way down. Other than the once a year, like, let the skin breathe. One of the potential jobs is over at the university, and my resume is impressive, but I'm sitting there going, well, maybe if I look more like somebody who was, freshly out of college and not, having a beard out to here. So, but you never know. So, all right. So I will say this. I'm definitely going to have to have you on more often to talk, because you just listed off a whole bunch of, Eastern medicine and alternative medicine, and like alternative to most people, not alternative, universally. Those are one of the things that I intend to talk about and follow up posts in the future is,
Yeah,
really, really asking questions about that and breaking things down into here's what we know, here's what we kind of know. And in some cases, not with anything you listed, but with some of these other things. Hey, this is probably unproven. Try at your own risk, but hey, not going to debunk it entirely. Because you do get the people who promote holistic medicine, but they're like, yeah, use peppermint instead of cancer medicine. And I'm like, okay, so we do have modern science for a reason, but modern science needs to be rolled back as well. Like, if we do have simpler alternative or holistic approaches that work, then why not go for them? So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I'm fully in the, if I broke my arm, I would go to the hospital and have it
right,
set by a doctor or surgeon, and and then I'd do acupuncture or something else maybe for pain management. If
right,
I was diagnosed with cancer, I would have chemo, but I'd
right.
also use some alternative, methodologies to help.
Well, and it's funny because you get the people on both camps that are completely pro science or completely holistic and like throw it out the window. And I'm like, if we could just dial it back and like use a blend of two, because there are some times when fancy, complicated medicine isn't needed when somebody could just there are other and this is not one of those anti-neurodivergent medication, like, yes, that's not where I'm going with that, but, like, there are times where the simple, tried and true, traditional and/or alternative or holistic medicine is the approach to go with, so
Right.
especially in today's modern healthcare system too, cheaper, um, and yes, hi, Nick, and hi, Dana. One of these days, I'm going to be on screen with Dana. I almost was able to with y'all today and was not able to. So jumping off of that, because with so far with Fred and with Nick, we're like 20 minutes into the conversation before we even begin to ask the first question, which is fine. I mean that with all love, and not just because Nick's watching, but because I would say that both parts of that period. The first part that I like to ask everybody, that I want to ask you is with Gen Xy, with Banner and Backbone, with all this other stuff that you're doing,
Mhm.
how is it helping you to be a better person? And how is it helping other people to be better? And it could be mind, body, heart, or soul, or just generally. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe mind, heart, and soul here, right? Like, so um there are a couple different answers to this. So one is I get to do Gen Xy with my best friend of 40 plus years, Dana Dubois. And that is really nourishing to my heart and soul, right? Because she and I joke with her that she's like my desert island person. She's completely and utterly straight. I'm completely and utterly gay. If the two of us were ever ended up on a desert island together, there wouldn't be any romance, but we would never run out of things to talk about because we've been talking for 47 years at this point, and we never we've never run out of things to talk about. So it's really good for me to kind of maintain that connection with a person who's been one of my best friends for my whole life, and to kind of continue that conversation, right? So that's one thing. Um, Another piece of it is I feel like we are centering the conversation, around Gen X, which she and I both are, and that feels like it's something that's important to do at this particular time in our lives. We've got this theory that Gen X, that we're late bloomers, right? And so I feel like we're kind of only coming into our power now.
Right.
Um, you know, uh, Again, I'm a gay man. She's the parent of a gender non, a child who expressed curiosity about their gender identity. That inspired her to start a publication called Pink Hair and Pronouns that really advocates for parenting gender nonconforming kids in a really heart centered way. And so that's important. Like we get to up level those pieces of conversation, and because we're all swimming in a sea of politics right now, we get to talk about politics from our unique perspectives, and so that feels like it's a mind elevating thing, right? And hopefully, the way that's helping other people is we're we're showing people that we're just two normal folks, like we're not particularly special in any way. I mean, of course, we each think that we're very special. I think Dana's very special, but we're not, you know, um, elected to any office or, bestowed with any great fortune or anything like that. But we can talk about politics and we can kind of cut through the bullshit and figure out kind of what's really going on. And I feel like that's a necessary thing right now. And hopefully, we're inspiring other people. We've gotten messages that we're inspiring other people, which feels great. Um, yeah,
I
I'll stop
actually
there.
I actually really enjoyed. I only got to tune in for about 10 minutes of it the other day, but I really enjoyed the podcast you did where y'all pretended to be each other. Because at first I tuned in and I had no idea what was going on, but I saw you with the red wig and her with the beard and immediately put it together. And then I heard you like verbally trying to be each other, and I was dying laughing in the comments.
That was a good one. That was a
I,
really good one.
yeah, and I appreciate the shout out that you did to me and Nick on there, but I was just sitting there going like, I was like, I very much, I mean, I've only been on Substack a couple of weeks. I do have you, and I believe I have Dana on there as well. If not, I'm gonna go fix it. Yeah, I do. Well, I know I have Gen XY followed. I'll have to go make sure I have Dana followed on other stuff, but I have it so that I read everything that y'all put out. I don't get to always watch everything you put out,
Yeah.
but I definitely read everything. And following y'all's friendship, both as people, but also as you work together on these things, is really put happiness in my heart because I can see what y'all are doing. I can see the kinship. It's really special.
Well, thanks.
Maybe Nick and I will dress up as each other one of these times in a podcast, which won't be a very hard stretch. I'm just going to have to be a little bit more bald, and he's going to have to be a lot louder and never shut the fuck up. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hope Nick can do that. That seems like a real stretch for him.
Well, he does talk, but you can ask him. As long as he's known me, I take very few breaths. I breathe 3 syllables. But yeah. So what I'm hearing from the what you're saying with this, and this is not meant to be armchair therapist, but not that I'm not used to that being a personal trainer. I basically jokingly call it iron therapist. I would never claim to be one,
Hmm.
but I like to recap so that I understand, and so we can clarify it to people watching. I'm hearing that these projects that you work on both allow you to connect with a close friend, to find commonalities, and to open up perspectives, both you two, and so as a microcosm, and then as a macrocosm to everybody witnessing, they're kind of getting that same thing. They're getting a connection with a new friend. They're seeing commonalities in themselves, in y'all, as well as with each other, and it's helping everybody to open up perspectives. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a really good reflection of it. And we kind of said like our goal was, we're having this friendship and this ongoing conversation. Why not invite other people into it? And so one of the things that we really love to do is we kind of actively participate with the chat, right? Like we want people to come into the chat and sort of say things and challenge us and let us know what they're thinking. And, if they've got, an anecdote that is relatable to what we're talking about, we'd love to elevate that and put it out there. So it really is kind of creating this space in which we're able to have this bigger conversation about these topics that, are really, I think, at the crux of this moment that we're all living in right now. Um, so yeah, I love that. Banner and Backbone with you and the rest of the crew and Nick and Fred Pogue. You know, we're I'm a very political person. I have been since I was a young kid. I was the nerd who read. My parents had subscriptions to Time magazine and Newsweek magazine, and I used to read them like I was the one that read them cover to cover. Like I'd run out to the mailbox and get them, and every week they showed up every week back in the day, and I would read them cover to cover, and um, so I feel like I've been attuned into politics for a long time, and I'm getting to kind of flex that muscle, if you will. Working with you guys, working on Banner and Backbone. And then I've got another publication, Lawrence Winterman Science Fiction, where I'm serializing the novel that I've been writing for the last 10 years. So
See, this is why. First off, Nick, yes, flex and look pretty. Second off, I hate that I can't respond in the comments right now. It's not letting me do it when I'm the host because, like you said, I like to respond to it. But
yeah,
this is why Nick was right when I first started doing this. He's like, "You really need to meet Lawrence. You really need to get on screen with Lawrence." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Y'all have way too much in common." Because I'm currently working. I've attempted a novel 3 or 4 times, not gotten frustrated with it, just gotten busy and stopped about a third of the way through. I'm currently posting chapter after chapter of mine on here, so like
nice. All
I'm
right.
with
I
you.
I didn't know that. I'm gonna go check it out.
Well,
I
it's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's behind a paywall. It's like a $5 a month subscription, but that's the only thing that's behind a paywall. But I can send it to you free if you want. Um, but no, I agree with you. I vibe with what you're saying. Commonality and community right here is I very much was that kid that grew up reading, and it wasn't always, the highbrow stuff, but reading a lot and then writing and coming up and creating. And yeah, so no, I agree with you. I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but there we go. So,
No, yeah, yeah, I mean, I didn't just read like Time and Newsweek, right? Like I was reading these trashy science fiction fantasy novels uh by this author that, in retrospect he was kind of misogynistic and, had some weird ideas, but God, I read these Xanth novels by Piers Anthony like my entire childhood and growing up, and they're just like dumb, trashy fantasy novels basically, but I loved them. Yeah, I mean, I read everything, you know.
no, that was me if you also add comic books.
Right,
So,
comic books, cereal
yeah.
boxes, the shampoo bottle, like, I again, I'm the dorky kid that, like, my parents did the encyclopedia thing, where every month or whatever you'd go to the grocery store and they'd have like a new volume of the encyclopedia and we'd buy it and then I'd read it. Like I'd read it cover to cover because I just needed to read things, I mean, I love TV, but this is back in like the 70s and 80s, right? There, cable was a brand new thing. There wasn't a ton on, TV cut off at like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. So,
Yep.
uh, yeah, I just read everything I could get my hands on.
Which is funny because I very much vibe with that as what the kids refer to as an older millennial, because like I'm right there where the very first years of millennial where we still old enough to vibe with the generation before us and young enough to have basically been the forerunners for all the technology and the later generations refer to as commonplace. We were cognitively formed when that technology was introducing itself into the world, the internet, these console video games, everything. But old enough to remember a time when, if you didn't have cable, there were 12 channels. And even if you did have cable, a lot of it cut off by a certain time. And
Right.
even if you weren't complete latchkey kid, you still were like basically, even if it was just a couple hours, your parents would like go do something outside the house and you'd head off on your bikes. And, I remember in the last neighborhood that we lived in, from I think 11 up till 18 years old. It was basically okay, hey, go get on your bikes, and we'd bike to a point in the neighborhood where there was basically the woods right behind it. It ran along a creek, and we thought it was the coolest thing to find things back there. In retrospect, one of them was sus. We found an abandoned tennis court with a rusty machete laying on the ground, but we thought it
Nice.
was the most awesome thing in the world.
Sure.
So. And it was probably just some teenager out there, who brought the machete out there and was doing martial arts or something. But it also could have been a serial killer. Who knows? So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
we did the same thing. There was this old tree down at the end of our block, right? And for the longest time in my childhood, there was a fort inside the tree. Like some teenager somewhere had built this fort inside the tree, and we used to go, sneak into it when the older kids weren't there. And of course, we found porn in there and all kinds of crazy shit over the course of time. And yeah, things were different back then. I think a lot of parents these days raise their kids with a closer eye on them, in part because the world has gotten particularly shady, but also I think they're remembering the way that we sort of came up, and they're kind of like, yeah, no, that shit was dangerous.
Yeah. Um, so I guess I mean, I asked what doing all of this does to better you and to better others. What do you because and I don't like to run negative with anything at all. That's not where that's going. And it's not meant to be falsely positively toxic, but I will rephrase this in a way that I'm probably going to add to my list of interview questions. What is one thing, and I know there's probably many things, but what is the one thing or a one thing you think that your productions give people that you think we are in desperate need of today? So instead of asking it like, what problem is it fixing, or what's wrong in the world right now, more what is one thing that you think that you provide, you and Dana, you and everybody else provides through these productions that is in short supply these days that kind of helps fix the hole that's in the country's collective hearts right now.
Yeah, I also do this show with Fusen Iden called Dirty Talk, right? We do it every Friday at 11 Eastern. And we don't have a publication, but we just kind of do the show together. And Fusen is a trans woman living in Amsterdam, and she's a sex worker by trade. I'm an openly gay dude, and we talk really honestly uh, about sex, about sexual issues, right? Like we've talked about, hookups gone wrong. This week, this Friday, we're talking about 21st century safer sex, right? So like condoms and PrEP and DoxyPep and how to have safer sex. We've talked about bathhouses. We've talked about the apps. We've talked about just all of these different topics that are really at the heart of them. We talked about how to bottom, right? Like
Right.
how to get ready if you're going to bottom, which are things that like ain't nobody ever talked to me about that when I was coming
Yeah.
up. Like that was like secret information, and I didn't have the secret decoder ring that allowed me access to that information when I was growing up. I figured out a lot of shit on my own. And same with Fusin, right? Like she comes from Turkey. She comes from a very conservative culture that was very anti-gay and anti-trans. She talks about learning, like teaching herself things, like having to learn things, asking people uh in her circles kind of for information and getting laughed at, right? That like um and so one of the things that a service that I think we're providing is it's a space where people, maybe somebody out there is questioning, or maybe they're on the down low, or maybe they don't know how to ask the question that they need to ask about engaging in sexuality in a safe way, or whatever it may be. And they can come listen to two people talk about real lived experiences. And if they're feeling brave, they can ask a question in the chat and we will answer them. We take everything seriously. And I kind of think that's the ethos that I so like I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. Forgive me, Jacob.
No. Oh
But
dear Lord. Like, because I never monologue. Continue.
yeah, yeah, no, I've noticed that about you. You're really good at staying on topic and never monologuing. So I have come to believe that our purpose in this life, right, whether we have kids or not, is do not pass on generational trauma. Like your job as a person is to deal with the shit that whatever shitty hand you got dealt as a child, which, we all did in some way or another. Your job is to figure that out and to go to therapy and to do your work and to figure out how to heal yourself or how to ask for help healing if you need it, and not pass that on to another generation of people, right? Like I was molested when I was 8. I had this one experience, a creepy old pedophile dude molested me in a shopping mall dressing room when I was 8 years old. Fucked me up, right? Like it seriously kind of fucked up my life in a lot of ways.
I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. But my point is that I realized it's my job to process that trauma, right? Like, I don't know who this person is. I would happily murder him if I had the opportunity. I'm sure he's long dead by this point. But
Hopefully.
probably that dude was molested as a kid, right? Like, probably something happened to him. Something fucked him up. And he didn't learn the lesson of your job as a human is to not pass trauma on to other people. And and I have just hit a point where I believe that it's kind of job number one of all of us. Like you may have other karma, you may have other things that you're here to do, but I believe part of your job as a human is figure your shit out, heal it as best you can, and for the love of God, don't perpetrate whatever horrifying experience you had as a kid or a young adult or person. You could be in a relationship with a terrible person who messes your shit up. Don't pass that on to somebody else. Figure out how to deal with it.
That's actually part of one of the things that I'm trying to do with this Substack with the podcast is some of it will be my specific generational trauma, but it's also working through other people's. Is look, instead of us going the biggest generational trauma that I'm trying to help fix, heal for myself and others is the don't assume the knowledge that you had growing up is the knowledge that's going to heal you. It's going to have come from other places because I wouldn't call my parents the strictest or the most religious, but I definitely grew up pretty strictly Southern Baptist. And they're not that way anymore. And part of that's because they overcame their generational trauma, but it's also because I got out there and looked around and figured out how to fuse things into my own life and then brought it back to them. And my parents will be the first to tell you that they raised me, but I continue to help raise them. Back and forth. It's a give and take.
Sure.
What I like about what you were saying with your talks with Fuson, because I've been able to, tune into some of them, not all of them, but I've been able to tune into some of them. Is that I like the balance it strikes because I know that people like me and you, because we are such open individuals, can crank that volume from 1 up to 11, and there's nothing wrong with that. If people could be out there talking about, the straight sex, and be gross and crude about it, then we have the right to express our sexuality however I want to.
Right.
And striking the middle ground is not where I'm going with this. It's more like normalizing it. So what I like about how y'all talk about it is that it's both informative and you're able to have fun with it and enjoy it because you're talking about sex. If you're not enjoying it and or enjoying talking about it, then you're probably doing it wrong.
Right.
But it's you can have fun and it be tantalizing, and the topic itself, if you try not to be tantalizing in any way, you sanitize it and it's just not fun anymore. But you strike that balance between it being fun and enjoyable and sharing that experience while also being educational and informative. So, which is what it would look like if we could ever get it to a point of normalization. Like
Right.
if because if in the same way that we talk about it with the straight sex, and I'm gonna continue to say it like that because I can't say straight sex without smirking. But if it's ever going to get to a point where it's a normalized part of society, then you have to have both. You got to have educational and informative. You got to allow people to ask questions. You've got to be able to take questions. It has to be a back and forth, but you also shouldn't shy away from talking about, how fun it is or how much you enjoy it or sneak in a little. That's what he said while talking about it.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here's a fun little anecdote. So, like, back in, I mean, God, like 2000, like the early 2000s, like literally maybe the year 2000, I was working at a big tech company and I was on a team, me and a bunch of other dudes, and we had our own little office, right? It was like me and five guys, straight guys in an office. And, it got very locker room in there, right? And I remember there were a couple of times where like one of the guys would be talking about a date, right? And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, like I went on a date with this girl and blah blah blah, and I went down on her and blah blah blah." And we'd all laugh or whatever, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, yeah, like this weekend I went on a date with this guy, and I was sucking his dick and blah blah blah," and they'd be like, "Whoa," and I was like, "Oh what, man? I thought we were just talking about the sex that we had with our dates over the weekend. That's literally what Joe just did over there. Like, is that not what we're doing?" And I know that I changed their minds, right? Like I know that I could like literally see the little light bulb go on in a couple of those brains and be like, fuck, yeah, that is what we just did, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's literally what they just did. It was just with a different pairing. So
right, right.
I I've talked about it. I think the last time that we had our unofficially named Knights of the Knights of the Rainbow Table, which we'll plug again at the end of this video. But y'all should tune in tomorrow morning. We are definitely going to be doing our Knights of the Round Table with a gay guy, a bi guy, and a pan guy all walk into a bar. So,
Yeah.
but no, I talked about it on there. I've never had sex with a man or with a trans human being. And that is because I didn't really come into my own sexual awareness until after I was married. And yeah, it is actually honestly partially because I felt safe. My partner made me feel safe in our relationship, but it's also partially just because I had to let my wheels continue to turn. And, but I have made out with more men than I care to admit on camera, and not out of homophobia, but out of body count numbers.
Yeah,
Um,
bro, I
but
can only imagine if you were to show up someplace in some gold booty shorts. I'm imagining that there's one or two gay men that would come up to you and like not ask any questions, just lay some lip
just
lock
play
on you
straight
and
into
assume
it.
that it's okay.
And I love, oh God, I love my drag queens and my transgender friends. I absolutely love them to fucking death, no matter how they present, male to female or female to male. Like, that's not, and I'm not trying to go into a fetish thing. That's not what I mean by that. But just there's something about my soul that bonds with them way easier than most human beings that I encounter on the face of this planet. And my wife says it all the time. She's like, as far as drag goes, she's like, my husband doesn't have a favorite drag queen. My drag queens have a favorite, my husband. Because yeah, I will go into that later. Well, that's material to talk about tomorrow. But what I was going to say with that is that with the having made out note, I really threw off some people after I was out of the military. Surprisingly, this conversation never came up during then. Not because it wasn't because I was afraid to, but it's just the conversation never came up. But I was talking with a straight guy friend one time. And he was like, yeah, he was talking about like making out with a girl. He was like, yeah, that's why I could never make out with a guy. I just don't understand. And I just kind of off the cuff went, yeah. I mean, once you get past the stubble, it's not all that different. But it's a little bit of an acclimation. Like, it's not a bad experience. The lips are still soft, but the beard or the stubble can really change the experience. That must be what it's like for my wife to kiss me. And like they just looked at me like I had like a third arm, and I
Right.
was sitting here going, "You were just talking about kissing, and I was not uncomfortable." But, you're uncomfortable when it's flipped on its head, so you either need to realize you got boundaries that need to go both ways or realize you shouldn't have a boundary one way. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, exactly. Like, the dudes that I was talking to, in that office, they weren't homophobic, right? Like they knew that I was gay, like I'd been out, we'd had all kinds of conversations. But it's that moment of realizing like, oh, huh, yeah, I guess, sort of whatever I'm doing as a straight dude talking about, my relationships or women or whatever, like you could talk about that, as a gay guy with dudes, and I guess I kind of got to be okay with that. Otherwise, I'm not walking my walk, talking about.
That's the same thing that I talk about when people are talking about, oh, well, they're pushing the gay agenda in these Disney movies. And I was like, let's flip that script. They're pushing the straight agenda. They've been pushing the straight agenda for so long. Like, I don't get upset when two hetero characters kiss on screen, and people will be like, well, that's the norm. Well, genetically and scientifically, you're wrong.
Right.
Also historically, you're wrong. Like, but if you could flip the script and look at it from another other perspective, you can get at least the rational reasoning human beings to see what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is I'll lead into the next question because both you and I are as beautiful bearded, sexually fluid human beings, um, can do. We can talk about for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
You're beautiful. I'm just bearded. Anyway,
All
so
right, all right. Stop flirting, you scamp.
if I'm awake, I'm flirting. So, but what is something you do in your personal, it could be daily or weekly life that you do that works on mind, body, heart, or soul? What is a practice of yours that you either do intentionally or you've been doing
Hmm.
intentionally for so long that it's now, secondhand autopilot that you set up in your life that kind of helps you work on one of those? Other than the podcasts.
Yeah, yeah. So a couple different things are kind of springing to mind, right? Like, so writing is one of them. For me specifically, it's writing science fiction. Like that is my heart's true love, and when I'm writing science fiction, I can kind of enter that flow state where I feel like the story is telling itself through me more than like I'm writing it, which I love. I love that experience. Things that I do intentionally. So I'd say two things. One is I'm really interested in states of consciousness, right? I studied hypnotherapy and, you know, um, was a practicing hypnotherapist for a while. I still kind of do hypnotherapy for clients who come seek me out.
No wonder
Uh,
your voice is captivating. Continue.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, the voice doesn't hurt, right? Um, and so something that I discovered through that work was solfeggio frequencies, right? Which are these um, musical tones. Oh, it sounds like you. It seems like perhaps you know what I'm talking about,
Yes,
Jacob.
yes, I do. Continue, please, because that's one of the things I'm studying up on. I've used them for forever. That is my very first big blog post that I'm going to be putting out as frequencies
Nice.
in the human body. Continue. I'm sorry, you excited me.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good.
That's where my
Uh,
pansexual hand gestures came out.
yeah, no, I like it. That's sort of the like eager golden retriever senses that they're treats.
Nobody will be able to hear that face I'm making right now later on, but those
Yeah,
who can
yeah.
see
If
it,
they're only
continue.
listening to it, they won't see that.
Yes,
Um,
continue.
yeah, so
Solfeggio.
solfeggio frequencies are these specific frequencies of sound that have sort of physical, mental, spiritual effects on the human body, on the human psyche. And there's music out there that focuses on kind of building these solfeggio frequencies into it, right? So there's a YouTube channel that I follow called Meditative Mind that hello, brother. Apparently, yeah, Jacob and I were apparently twins at birth, and then you
I
you.
love you so much right now. Continue.
So I love Meditative Mind. I use that. I mean, sometimes I'll use it explicitly for meditation purposes. Sometimes I'll
Right.
just have it on in the background as I'm writing. Um, and then there's a service called Brain FM that's actually a little bit expensive, and so I don't do it anymore because I'm on a budget. But that also kind of ties into solfeggio frequencies and trying to entrain a very specific state of mind. So Brain FM is a little fancier where you can kind of say like, oh, I'm studying right now. I need to be in a state of mind where I retain information, or I'm meditating, or I need to get ready for bed and I'm trying to unstress and get ready for sleep. So that's really cool. So that's a thing that I do. And then the third thing that I would mention is one of my very best friends is a shamanic practitioner, and I studied with her for a long time. And there's a very specific, I mean, it's not like the way that she taught me to pray is particularly fancy or unique or some kind of secret. It's just a way of praying and kind of doing ritual that really resonates with me. And so, sometimes I'll do that to kind of center and ground myself and get into a place where I'm feeling less stress and more kind of connected to spirit.
We have so much to talk about. In follow-up podcast and a little bit here right now, but definitely in follow-up podcast. I don't know that I've talked to you about it before or not, but I'm actually trained as a Reiki healer.
Oh, nice.
Um, so I dabbled in that for a long time personally, and then I was fortunate enough to with my gym. There was one of my friends who was a massage therapist, who he was also a Reiki healer. Like he would do his Reiki sessions, and he also came to teach Tai Chi at my gym. And
Mhm.
so he had come to me very tentatively, like, I know you're into chakra work and Reiki work, but could we do like an actual like course class. He's like, I'm certified to be able to train people up. I was like, but if you don't want to, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I would love nothing more than to have a Reiki like certification class in the gym. Now I'm at the level where obviously they designate it as work on yourself or others with permission. Level 2 is, go do it for anybody. 3 is master or whatever. And some people will hear that and think that it's like Scientology level 1, 2, and 3, but it's not. I know. But it's all with an account. As with anything, it's to add some sort of structure to it to make sure that it's not just anybody out there claiming to do it. But the solfeggio frequencies. So I'm a big fan of solfeggio frequencies and binaural frequencies in
Sure.
general.
Yeah.
So
Binaural beats. Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at right now, and my continuing to read up on everything is I've been using these for forever, but I'm just now digging into how they work, why they work, what they do. And so I am a big fan of that. I use Meditative Mind when I'm meditating, and I sometimes put it on for sleep music and or background music because it's one of those things that is chalked up as either, oh, that's holistic and, woo woo stuff when it's really just Eastern medicine. And as we've figured out with everything, not all of it's Eastern specifically, but in the cases where it is, as we found out with everything, um, Eastern medicine has had it right, or mostly right, for forever, and it's just taken Western medicine catching up and, you know, "Oh, well, we proved this works now." Well, good for you, but everybody else has, noticed that it worked for themselves, and you can call it placebo effect or you can call it real, but everybody else has been noticing that this has been working for forever. But good job on Western medicine for finally, like, putting the stamp of approval on it. But, I mean, when the body is 80% water and we know that every part of our body responds to frequencies in the first place, it would only make sense that it would have healing properties. And so I've all that is to say that of the 3 things you mentioned, um, the only thing that I personally don't do myself is the shamanic ritual. I do have my own ways of doing that, but
Yeah.
the writing can be both active and passive, and the frequencies and state of mind is something that I definitely would like to get you on for further stuff to talk about, because I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot of importance there with frequencies that ranges from the, "Hey, if it works for you," through, spiritual and, alternative medicine, all the way up to freaking quantum dynamics and physics. Like, this is something that, like, if people just studied a little bit more, they'd realize that, like, it actually speaks to the highest level of our scientific understanding as we currently have it. Go ahead and say what you were about to say. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, no, no. You didn't cut me off. You could just tell that I had something that I was excited to talk about. I'm completely blanking on the name of this right now. Don't get old, Jacob. Getting old sucks. So there's a technology that I was using
Seasons.
in my hypnotherapy practice, the name of which I will remember. It will come to me, and I will be able to share it with you. But it's basically so it was a device that looks like a stereo receiver, but rather than speakers, it had cuffs that you wear on your ankles and wrists and the top and your forehead, and there are sounds that are basically the human voice singing particular frequencies, and then they are kind of amplified in certain ways. And basically, there were like, I don't know, 30 different programs, like 30 different sounds that you could choose
Yeah.
from, and each sound does a different thing in the body. Um, and they are so honestly, what was amazing about it is, I studied hypnotherapy. I had a hypnotherapy practice. I, was used to um, uh, kind of inducing somebody into a hypnotic state through kind of the normal talking process. But what I found was with this device, I could get somebody into hypnosis like immediately. Like I'd put on kind of put on a frequency series for them, and they were just immediately in hypnosis. And it was really fascinating because it's like solfeggio frequencies on steroids. Basically, it was really, really powerful.
I did
Um,
something I did something similar to that one time, but it wasn't necessarily sounds. It was they attached mostly to your forehead and scalp, and it was a series of electrodes that when I describe it, it sounds like I went to a mental asylum, but that's not what it was. But it was attempting to do with these nodes, what we do with binaural beats and solfeggio frequencies, which is to
right.
try to trigger different brain waves and essentially our alpha, delta, gamma, theta
Exactly.
brain
Yeah.
waves, because I mean that's been proven to be a thing for forever, and we can't always track exactly what every one of them is doing. 2 or 3 out of those different brain waves we mostly have mapped out, but there's still a lot of room for learning there. But it was all about no one frequency is operating at once. It's usually a combination. Some just spike and lower, but it was that same concept. But instead of with sounds and singing, it was just that frequency being directly transmitted. And when I did that, oh my God, did my brain go through the range of emotions as I was processing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Um,
really, really intense. It's freaking me out that I can't remember it right now, the name of it, but it'll come to me, and I'll follow
what
up with you.
what is your favorite color?
Weirdly blue, but I've been partial to red a lot lately.
Okay. I was curious because I saw all the green glass behind you, and I was like, green is my absolute favorite color, and you can't see it in the office. Well, you can see some of it right now, but I have green glass all around my office. Sorry, random question. I'm just sitting here
Yeah,
like,
no, I really
w-
like green glass as well. I have several other pieces of green glass throughout my apartment.
one indigo star child to another. I'm just sitting here like, okay, I'm like now noticing details in the background of your video. So, um, wow. Well, with the hypnotherapy, what really got you into that? So, talk to me for a second about what got you into it, and what did you see that you can disclose? Because I obviously can't talk about all clients' journeys or processes, but just in generalities, what got you into it, and what did you see from people as they were going through that? Because that's not something. I mean, I've been hypnotized once, but I've never done hypnotherapy. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. So, I uh here's my, Liz Taylor moment where I reveal that I've been married twice. I've had two gay marriages and two gay divorces. Um
Very similar to regular marriages and regular divorces,
yeah,
except
yeah, no,
gay.
they're
Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah,
messing with you.
they don't always work. So in like 2016, I split up with my husband, my first husband, and had a really hard time, right? Like I was really, really wrecked. It was one of those situations where I was like, I was still absolutely in love with him, and we could not continue being in a relationship together. It was absolutely toxic. And so we broke up, but I was really devastated. And there's like, Dan Savage likes to talk about, you know, gay men or any queer person who comes out. It's really kind of like that's sort of where like puberty starts, so like i I didn't come out until I was 23, 24. So it was kind of like somebody hit the reset button, and it was like I was 13 from that point and kind of moving forward. So I divorced this guy. I was 46, and probably my first kind of true genuine heartbreak, like really big. Like I thought I was going to be with this guy forever, to the point that I married him, and we ended, and I was in a lot of pain. And so um I was literally at a point where I was like, I've tried therapy, I've tried drugs, I've tried, standing upside down on my head at the new moon. Like, I'm going to go try a hypnotist. And I found a hypnotist, and I went for several sessions, and it really, really helped me. But it also, like, through that experience, I was kind of like, I could do this. And so I started researching it and studying it. I took classes, I got a course, I got certified through the NGH, the National Guild of Hypnotists. I opened a hypnotherapy practice. It was one of those things where I did it for my own personal healing, and then I loved it so much that I, you know, ended up studying it and doing it for other people. And I would say that the thing that I discovered the most through doing that work is, and I should note, I did a kind of hypnotherapy called Five Path that is very much about, um, it's not stage hypnotherapy, right? It's not like a magic show. It's not like, quack like a chicken, or, quack like
Yeah,
a duck or whatever, right? It's like real work. And and the thing that I noticed most was that every single client that came to me had some kind of childhood trauma. Every single one. In some cases it was like child abuse, like beatings, or like family of origin stuff, like got left behind, or parents treated you like shit, or childhood sexual abuse or rape, or I mean, you name it, right? Like everybody had trauma. And pretty much everybody's big thing that they wanted to work on, whether it was smoking or self confidence or figuring out how to be a human in a relationship with another human, or coming to terms with their sexuality, coming to anything, like you name it, alcoholism, everything, always connected back to some kind of childhood trauma. And, and that, we talked at the beginning about how, like, one of my big things is I believe each one of us has an obligation to kind of figure out and heal our own personal trauma so that we are not passing that on to other people, passing it on to younger generations. And it's partly informed by that experience of, I had hundreds of clients as a hypnotherapist. And I get that energetically, maybe I'm putting something out there where I'm drawing a particular set of clientele to me. I get that maybe hypnotherapy as a discipline naturally kind of brings people in. But, like, seriously, 99.9% of the clients that I had experienced some kind of trauma in childhood of some kind. Um,
It's It's really interesting that you say that, and I never mean to be like, "Oh, hey, here's your thing, here's my thing," but, it is a conversation. But there's that neurodivergent tendency to do the, "Oh, hey, that reminds me of," and
sure,
people see it as one-upping when it's really just relating. Um, I haven't done hypnotherapy, but like I said, I've done Reiki healing for people, and I've had that same observation where even people like my wife, I love her to death. She wants to believe, but is one of the biggest, I won't say skeptics, but she's what I can see, touch, hear, smell. That's what I believe in. And even my wife, got something away from any time that I would work on these sessions with people. And part of it I chalk up to the fact that I usually only get to do one session with somebody because of schedule or timing or just life and, the way our roads cross each other. But everybody that I've brought into one of these sessions and put them through a guided root chakra meditation healing has come away crying in some form or fashion, has come away, some of them can pinpoint exactly why they're crying, some aren't, but because it is the root chakra, it's inherently a deep part of their foundation that usually stems back to childhood. Sometimes it's later on in life, but always comes away with that there's some part of me that I assumed was healed that was not, that I do realize is still there or I had suppressed and forgotten about. Um, and so even the people who don't believe or don't want to believe still come away with something, and it's usually directly related. Like you said, we've all got some type of unhealed trauma. It's just a matter of how far back it goes.
sure,
So,
yeah. And, I say childhood, right? And I mean, there any time from infancy through, adolescence, teenage years, right? Like, and it may be a person that actually hurt that person, or it may be I had a really, really intense series of sessions with a woman who, was dealing with a range of issues in her life. And when we kind of traced everything back, it was because, she grew up with two brothers and a dad who, like, they all adored her. They treated her like one of the boys. Like, there was just no differentiation in their family, right?
mm,
And when she was 13, and I'm anonymizing this, as best I can, but basically the wound was when she was 13, she went into, like, I don't know, left elementary school. I don't remember the ages of everything, but basically, like, got into like a school situation or something where suddenly she realized she was a girl and she was being treated differently. And, it's not like she didn't know she was a girl. It was just she'd never been in situations where girls and boys were treated differently, right? I think they moved to a new town, maybe, and she was in a new
right.
school. And suddenly, like, she became aware of the disparity, right, in our society, like the patriarchy, you know,
Yeah.
like running into it head first. And that shit fucked her up. And, it was a thing that she dealt with for the rest of her life, to the point where she came to me for hypnotherapy and was trying to, like, unpack this, like, hey, I think I've been traumatized by the fucking patriarchy. Does that sound insane? I was like, nope.
No, no, it does not. I'm actually kind of afraid as to what would come out if you were to practice hypnotherapy on me. And I have been through therapy, I've been through iron therapy, I've been through light walks, I've been through meditation, I've been hypnotized, but never hypnotherapy. So that might be something that I have to do sometime in my life is go get hypnotherapized. So,
Well, I will
uh,
tell you, if
and
you're
that
doing
wasn't
it
an
with,
appeal to get you to do it. That was
no,
just
no,
a
no,
thing.
yeah, no, I
It
get it.
makes me think of, yeah,
I
God,
find a reputable hypnotherapist, and a reputable hypnotherapist will ensure that you understand that you are always safe when you're doing hypnotherapy. You always have free will, and you can consciously choose, like your subconscious, you're, kind of in your subconscious mind, but you can choose to uh, end any hypnotherapy session that is not operating towards your highest and greatest good, right? So I know people who have said like, "Oh, I'm scared to do that because of what I might learn, or that situation, feels too vulnerable." A good hypnotherapist is gonna make sure that you understand that you always have free will and you're always safe in that situation, and your subconscious mind is only gonna present to you information that you're ready to deal with. So that's my pitch for hypnotherapy.
I respect and appreciate it. Well, we got about 4 minutes left. I hate that mine are usually on kind of like a stricter schedule for now. That will be more fluid in the future. But I will have Lawrence, outro himself. But I will say for anybody who is one of mine, who's not one of Lawrence's, which I doubt, because most of my followers and subscribers come from you and Fred and Dana and Nick. I don't know why hesitated on Nick. I think I said thought Nick in my head, but said Fred. But
Right,
yeah.
right. Who?
Um,
Who's that?
yeah, yeah, exactly. But for basically if y'all want to, continue to listen to this conversation play out, but on a completely different branch, we are going to be doing the Knights of the Rainbow Table tomorrow. Some sexy genius threw that out as an idea, and then some sexy genius said, "Yes, that sounds great." But some sexy genius laid the platform for it in the first place. So, but yeah, so we're gonna be doing Knights of the Round Table tomorrow. I think it's 11:30 Central Time, 12:30 Eastern,
Yep.
where it'll be us and Nick Perro on there, talking about everything from dating in this modern culture, with varying sexualities to, anything else that we want to talk about. But I will see everybody tomorrow. So will Lawrence. Lawrence also has a ton of other stuff going on that you should tune into because it's all quality content. Sometimes he wears a red wig that looks like he's a mascot for Wendy's.
Only
But
that one time, Jacob. You said you wouldn't tell anybody.
nobody look, I've got one too, and I've got pictures. um, and I do need to get, if you'll message me after we get off, your email, I'll send you the chapters I have of my story so far. That
Oh
way you
yeah,
can read
I'd
it
love
if you
it.
want.
I'd love to read it.
It's only third draft, so it's me dictating it, me writing it, and then me editing it lightly. So there will probably be at least 10 drafts of this before I ever publish it. But did you want to say anything on the out?
Just thanks for having me, man. This is a great conversation. I'm not surprised that we've got so much in common. It's good to know that my twin that was abandoned at birth was kept in the oven for another 15 years or something, and finally I get to meet you.
It's Captain America on ice. So yeah,
Right, right, yeah.
we
Couldn't
were
they, like, I was the first draft, and then they're like, oh, we could tweak a couple of things here.
we were spit out of the same spiritual womb at the same time, and then I stayed on spiritual cryostasis for another.
Right.
We won't talk about numbers, years. So
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Uh,
well,
there's a story there.
ooh,
That's a good
yeah,
story.
either from a science fiction or a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, either one.
Interesting. Okay, we'll talk about that too. So, but I love you, brothers. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm looking forward to talking to you tomorrow and continuing to develop our friendship over the course of these podcasts. So,
Sounds great, friend. All right.
uh,
Thank you, sir. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.
talk to you later. Bye.